My name is Anne Bentley. I'm the Curator of Art here at the Massachusetts Historical Society. Today I'd like to talk about the conservation work we did on our manuscript, Notes on the State of Virginia by Thomas Jefferson. Notes on the State of Virginia was Jefferson's only full-length book. Jefferson wrote this manuscript as a response to a series of questions from a French official. The manuscript describes Jefferson's own state of Virginia, the geography, the natural resources, its history, its politics, and social customs. One of the reasons this manuscript is so interesting and important is that it conveys the evolution of the text as Jefferson worked on it. The manuscript has 142 full pages, and about a third of those have extra additions that he literally cut and pasted into it. In 1784, while he was our minister in Paris, Jefferson turned the manuscript over to a French printer so that he would have copies of it to distribute to his colleagues. I think it's a miracle that this manuscript survived its trip to the printer, because normally the author does not get the manuscript back, so we're very, very lucky to have this in our collection. At some point in its career, the manuscript was bound in a very tight back, full leather binding, with the spine glued down to the actual manuscript. This evidently was an attempt to protect it. So eventually, the leather warped the boards so that the foredge of the pages were sticking out. And even though we rarely used the original, every time we did, the foredge of the manuscript was at great risk. We were losing little bits of text, because Jefferson writes very, very small and to the edge of everything. While we were examining the manuscript, trying to see what we could do to preserve it, we had an inquiry from Douglas Wilson, who was then at Monticello, a Jefferson scholar who was interested in seeing if he could determine what was underneath the attachments. When we all looked at the manuscript, we decided that it was time to remove it from its binding to preserve it. Ironically, the binding that had been put on to save it was tearing it apart. We decided that yes, it was in the best interest of this manuscript for us to disbind it and conserve it and refilm it. So before we ever started work, the first step was to take the original manuscript and compare it against the 1977 microfilm to make sure that every piece was still there as it had been filmed originally. We then numbered each page. Jefferson himself had numbered, but when you start removing these pieces and washing them and soaking them in basic solution to deacidify them, and you're talking about some very, very small pieces of paper, it's very, very important that you have a system that maps out where everything came from and where it goes back to. When you have a tight back binding, all of the sheets had been glued. First they were whip stitched into a bindable product, then they were glued full along, and the leather binding was glued directly to them. That meant that it was extremely difficult to remove all of the leather, and then the glue, and then the stitches that were all along the spine of the book. This document is one of our prized possessions, so it was very, very well taken care of, binding notwithstanding. So we did not have a lot of dry cleaning that we had to do, but for the few areas that needed it, we used vinyl eraser to mechanically remove small areas of surface dirt. Here's our conservation technician using the same techniques on other documents. Next, we tested it for acidity and discovered that the paper was very acidic. In order to treat that, we would have to expose it to water. So first, we tested the inks for water solubility. Jefferson used iron gall inks, a type of indelible ink made from growths on leaves and branches of trees, and the cotton fiber paper is very high quality. We were able to first wash them in deionized water to remove the water-soluble acids, and then give them a short bath in a basic solution to raise the basic pH so that it would be neutral. And this would help us preserve it for a much longer time. During my time here at the Society as Conservator of Manuscripts, I was able to work on a great many fabulous pieces. The Notes on the State of Virginia was the most complex, bar none, and it was very, very satisfying to work on, to take this piece and make it available to the public safely and easily through the means of our digital facsimile. The website makes it possible for researchers to actually remove the attachments just as we did, or put them back just as Jefferson had them originally. The fun thing about a project like this is that you're down in the lab and you're doing your thing, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, I'm the first person to look at this stuff in 200 years, since Jefferson himself pasted these things down. And it's kind of cool, it gives you a little tingle.